This is a daughter podcast where dads come to talk, think, and thrive with your hosts, Oscar and Blandon. Our mission is to cultivate a community of strong, mindful, and present fathers.
We want to curate honest conversations with all men, but especially those who have the honor of raising daughters.
Hey guys, Oscar here with Blandon, and it's Daughter Podcast. Getting into some other topics today, one in particular that is dear to my heart, and I know a lot of folks, at least in the military, but it's not just us in the military that get into this topic, and that is dad guilt. What we're having to do for our families to provide that many times takes us away from our families and figuring out how we handle that. You were in the military for a little while, and then now your job, although not in the military, still takes you away from the family, right?
Yes, I am a senior corporate trainer and I travel for work. So it's a good and bad thing because when I'm home, I'm working from home and I can spend time with the family and the girls. However, when I'm away and I can be away for a few days, a week, and so then I'm not as present as I would like to be, it does leave this lingering sense of, oh, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I really want to be home, but you can't be home all the times. It in an ideal space and place, I would be able to see the girls every single day, do the things that I would love to do with them, and also make a ton of money to provide for them and what we have going on. And
For sure.
so it leaves me feeling bad, just to be honest. Like when I'm away and I'm traveling and I'm staying in a hotel and then I'm FaceTiming the girls and they're like, Daddy, we want you. We want you to be here. We miss you. Like that weighs on you mentally, spiritually, emotionally as a dad. That really gets to you, especially when you are so used to being around your kids all the time.
As fathers, though, I think a lot of times culturally, you are expected to do certain things, right? And not,
Right.
and just again, culturally looking at historically, the father goes to work, does the thing, and that's just the role that we take. And up until recently, I suppose that wasn't really talked about. I go away a lot as well, and we'll discuss that a little bit. But if my wife is away from the kids for a little while, she doesn't like it. She's vocal about it. And then every so often we'll get in conversation. She'll be like, "Oh, you get to go away and chill." I'm like, "Wait a minute. It's like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Yes, do I not have the stress of the normal life at that very moment? Sure. Being in a hotel room, just like you mentioned, it's quiet. It's not this constant grab for attention from all the kids and all these different things. Got it. But it's almost, at least for me, it's weird to have that quiet sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Because you miss sometimes even just the annoyance of the noise,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The annoyance, the presence. And I've gotten very comfortable being by myself as far as comfortable with me. And some people don't like that, but not when it comes to the family. Like when I know
Yeah.
out and about doing something and I see something, I instantly think, oh, they'd like that.
I feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, and the feeling's always there, right? And I've gone to some cool places, and then I find myself not doing anything outside of work, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah. Very
and
same.
then
The very same feeling.
yeah,
Because it's almost like my feeling is it's almost like I'm cheating on them, right? Like I'm cheating them out of this experience. And I tell my wife all the time, and she's enjoy
right,
yourself. And I'm like, no, I can't enjoy myself. I can't go to all the random spots or
right,
coffee houses or these fun places without you
right,
guys. How can I do that without you?
right, right.
So I like you, I just end up sitting in the hotel. But I just think it's not every dad is the same. And I think this is the point of the podcast. Like we're all different. We all have different feelings about certain things. Like I really get my battery recharged from being around people.
Mm,
Like I really get energy from being around my kids. they, even though they're like on 10 all the time, I like being around people. I like being in social environments and I like getting up and going. So when it's me by myself, even though I'm comfortable with me, I, I'm like, okay, I now I'll just do nothing because I don't have
Right.
somebody to do it with. I had a family so we could do things together, not for
Right.
me to have great experiences by myself.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I'm the opposite. I
Yeah,
recharge. I recharge in silence. I wouldn't say silence. I recharge alone.
yeah,
And primarily, I work. My workout is my recharge. Believe it or not, right? So like I
yeah,
can just hit it and be in my own head and go through processes in my brain that I'm thinking about. So when we talk about people, like I get my social meter tapped out really quickly, and then I have to not be social. But when it comes to the girls, it's different because
yeah,
being around them, they're not tapping out my social meter,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So if I come home to them, uh, I feel good.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm just being me. Now again, there is times work is stressed and or something's going on where there's too much noise.
yeah.
Um, but that's where that workout comes in. I can just go and focus on that and get all the noise out of my head, if you will.
I think it's also, and some people probably disagree with this, but I think it's healthy to express your annoyance with them. I think it's healthy because then you're not holding any resentment back toward your children or toward your spouse or this, that, and like it's healthy to be able to vocalize it. And I think it's mature to understand your emotions. They don't just see a dad that is just either angry or
Mm.
silent. They see a dad who expresses the full range of emotions. And now they're understanding if daddy is not pleased or if I'm really excited about something. They understand I'm proud of them in moments. They understand that I want them to work harder in other moments. And they still come to me and they're still running up to me and they're like, I want to be with you. I want to spend time with you.
Right.
But it allows for me to be open with them. It's not like I break down in silence in a closet, which I can respect. Some people don't want to show all of those emotions around your children. But I think for me growing up, being able to see my mom be emotive and have have her different moments, it humanized her to me. And that's ultimately what I want to do with my girls. I want them to see me not as a super dad, superhero, but as a human. Like I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm going to fail you, but I'm gonna try my best, and I'm always gonna love you. And I think at those points, it endears me to them and them to me even more. And it cultivates a real relationship, not this fake relationship where everything is great, everything is wonderful. Oh, daddy is never upset with you, or we're always happy over here. We never have issues or problems, or no one ever gets angry or annoyed or irritated, and no one yells. We do all those things because family, for me, is the first understanding of how you resolve conflict. If we never have conflict, if we never have things that put us in opposition with one another, then how do we ever come together? And how do I ever teach them to go out in the world and have conflict with other people and then overcome it and come together? And that is the part that makes me feel bad when I'm not here to be a part of that process. That is where the
Right.
guilt comes in, where I am taken outside of the house and I am working, granted, but I can't be a part of that process during that week or those days. It leaves this void until I get back.
Yeah, and FaceTime is horrible. I hate FaceTime because and it's not the kid's fault, right? Especially like
Right.
for example, 3-year-old, you get a FaceTime with a 3-year-old, they're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do something else. If you were home, they would take you to go do something else. But
Yes. Yeah.
you're on this screen, like, well, what is this? I've got something else to do. But you brought up a good point, right? So we know that conflict is literally a part of life because the world is full of people. We don't get in conflict with a computer. Worst case scenario, we break the damn computer and it's fine. But it's conflict with people, and that's I think because of what we've talked about before, where there's no manual for this job,
Mhm.
right? Just do our best to manage conflict to the best of our ability. And in at least for me, as growing up as a father, growing up with my first child,
Yeah.
that conflict has been a big source of guilt as to I may have said something, or more importantly, I may have said something in a certain manner that could have been said better. And for me, I try to write stuff down at night, things that are either bothering me or that I feel like I could have done better. And it's almost exclusively how I talk to my children.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm talking about even when I'm gone, which is like a double guilt. I'm so hotel room and and because of the silence makes those things very loud to me. The other day, I said this one thing. I bet she's still thinking about that. Odds are the child's not even thinking about that because they live
Yeah.
in the moment. They're pretty awesome, right? But my brain, I'm like, I'm thinking about that. Like, how could I have done that better? Like, why did I say this, or why did I get after her about something that have not been important? I saw a clip that really struck a nerve. I'm going to paraphrase here, but he was talking about getting after his children for not turning off the lights.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, Dr. Atia, I'm assuming, this is obvious, just an assumption, is doing pretty well for himself. But he said in the clip, he said, am I getting after them really because of the money that they're spending on leaving the lights on? In general, that big of a change if I leave the light on in one room all day as opposed to turning it off? Is it really that big a change? Or is this a replacement for something else that is bothering you about your kid?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that really struck a nerve because I'm like, man, that's so true. Realistically, how hard is it for me to walk by the room, turn off the light, and not say a word? It's not
Right.
really that like, ultimately not that hard, right? Am I really teaching my children big things by me getting after them every single time? There's times where I'll be like, come turn off the light. I'm right there. I could
Yeah.
do it. But I'm
Yeah.
like getting after and getting after. And so it made me really think like, how often am I getting after my children about things that I won't call them not important. We try to teach lessons wherever we can, but they may be minuscule in the bigger scheme of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what it made me think is something that I picked up talking about leadership, but I started to name it dad capital. Like
Mhm.
the capital as a father, the capital I've put in their little bank. Am I wasting that money, that capital, by getting after them with this stupid stuff, right? Every single time, am I wasting that capital? At the end of the day, did I waste that day's allotment of because I got after them for some silly? And I'm gonna tell you right now that the crazy thing is, I think I wasted more with my oldest than with the other two.
Okay.
Inadvertently, I'm doing it more to my oldest than with the other two.
Hey guys, I'm Nick Darland, and I invite you to check out my podcast, Power and Chaos. Here's the truth. We're not the worst things that's ever happened to us, and we're not the worst thing that we've ever done either. Our power lies in how we rise from the chaos. Each week, we dive into real stories of resilience, growth, and leadership. Because chaos doesn't define us, it strengthens us. We're streaming on all major platforms. Subscribe today and discover how to turn adversity into strength.
Let me ask you this. Let me just investigate it from the other side. See, what it sounds like to me is that you want them to be accountable for their actions. And that doesn't seem to be a bad thing. But what that's not what you're communicating. That's not what we always communicate, right? We're trying to teach a lesson like on the Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi and Daniel San. Like he's trying to teach him a huger lesson that he can use later on in the story, but it doesn't make sense to Daniel at that point, right? But I agree with you. I agree with the sense that we have a certain dad capital and there are things that we possibly could be getting after our kids for, little things. But then I also think I need to teach the lessons that will serve you later on in life in the smaller things, like being accountable for your actions. If you turn on the light, be the one to be able to turn off the light or have an understanding or the humility to say, please forgive me for not turning off this light. I know this is a rule that we have set up, but there needs to be a level of communication about expectation set
Yeah.
from us in a household that our children are able to follow up with. And I get what you're saying, but I just want to wrestle with that. I guess I want to wrestle with, should I feel guilty about holding my children accountable, or should I feel guilty about micromanaging them and not allowing them to come back to it? Because maybe they would have came back to it. Maybe they would have came back and turned off the light. I just saw the light on, didn't give them a chance, really.
But
That's interesting.
I think it's not the lesson that at least for me, it's not the lesson I struggle with, and I don't think the lesson takes away from capital.
Yeah.
I think there's two things. One, it is the way that we relay that lesson, right? So, meaning like getting after them, and by getting after them, is am I nagging my kid, right? In my tone, in my volume, like all the things that I'm doing when I say those things, because I'm probably annoyed at it,
Yeah.
right? So am I using that annoyance to nag, which in my opinion, in my opinion, takes away that capital. I mean, think about it at work, right? If your boss is constantly getting after you, they're losing that. Like by the end of the day, you're tapped out. You're like, all right, oh, dude, I'm micromanaging enough. Get off my back. You've had them. I've had them. Like, it's a real thing.
Right.
You take away the autonomy. The autonomy is something that we as humans want. And the kid,
For sure. But
so
I
it's
don't know
not the
about
lesson.
I don't know about giving my 4-year-old that much autonomy though. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And I'm just gonna push back because you don't know anything. You know
Right.
you know what I'm telling you. You know what I'm teaching you. So yeah, it may be different with your 12-year-old. She's lived a little longer life. She's had the lessons under her belt. Now it's time for her to show and prove. But I'm not giving my 4-year-old that
Yeah.
much autonomy in the
No, no,
household.
no.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is, do I say, even to the 4-year-old, think about this. Do I say, hey, baby, can you come over here and turn off the light for me because you turned it on and we want to make sure to turn off lights when we leave?
Yeah, that's good.
And this is literally 4 or 12, like to me, right?
Yeah.
My tone. Or am I saying, dang it, kid, come over here, turn off this dang light because I turn it off every single day, right? So there's a huge difference in that. And we laugh about it because we know that we're there. But how are they perceiving it? It is taking the dad capital out a lot faster, right?
Right.
Am I withdrawing more capital by doing that? That at the end of the day, we have a harder time at night because they're tapped out and I'm annoyed. Whereas if I'm being a little more stoic, controlling my emotions, trying to be as kind as I want them to be about these things, maybe I didn't waste that capital. Maybe that the night is a lot better, right?
Yeah.
And I say that because there's days where my 12-year-old, and this is where that presence comes in, where maybe I just didn't notice these things, right? There's days where my 12-year-old, because we have more conversations, and actually this happened with my 8-year-old. She was 7 when she did it one time. She had a really good day today. We didn't argue today, or we didn't. And I'm like, holy crap! I didn't really pay attention to that because we pay attention to the bad days.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know almost exclusively at the end of the day when I've had a bad day as a dad.
Yeah.
Like I feel it, I sense it in my children. I know it. And those days bring up a lot of dad guilt because odds are most of that bad day that I've had as a dad is on me. Like, right? Like being more sensitive to something or not taking care of myself. That's one thing that we'll talk about, right? If you're not taking care of yourself, it'll come across towards your children, right?
Yeah.
So there's days where she'll say that. And then there's other days where she'll be like, I can sense the tension at the end of the night. And we're not like arguing or fighting or anything, but then she'll mention, you seem in a bad mood today. That sucks because I'm like, dang, like that means that she went all day or I went at her all day somehow and she felt that all day. What about it? Enough to hold on to it to then tell me at the end of the night. And she'll say it almost crying because she doesn't want to hurt my feelings. Or I'm like, this is one thing that I've stressed to both of my older daughters. Like, my feelings and my reactions are not your responsibility. Like, zero responsibility about my human things, period. and try to stress that. But it reminds me that they take all that stuff in.
Yes.
We're under the microscope with our kids
Yeah.
more than we ever like to even think about. They're watching, they're listening,
Yes.
and what's crazy is that they're noticing, right? They notice your facial expressions, they notice your change in tone, they notice when you put something down differently on the counter. It's really odd to be under that kind of microscope, but they notice it.
Yeah, and but I think that's the point that we're making, right? Or at least the point that I want to make is that is allowing for someone to have emotions, but then come back. I think the lesson is coming back, and then if you notice that about yourself, seeking forgiveness from your children and being able to teach
Right.
that lesson, or being able to
Right.
say, "Hey, we're going to move on, and we're going to shift gears, and this is how we move on after we've had a rough or bad interaction with each other. This is how we move on." Don't
Right.
internalize it or help them try not to. We don't really have control over that because I guarantee if we become like robots, that's not helping them either because they're
Right.
going to be hit. Like you said, they're going to be punched in the face in the real world somewhere, and somebody is not going to have a robotic reaction to them. And they're going to think that no one should ever had any issues with them. You have conflict, you learn how to resolve it, and then you move on, and then you work through whatever other obstacles come your way. And I think those are the bigger lessons to help
Right.
them in life. I get what you're saying because that sense of dad guilt, it's man, I could have done this better. I could have shown more grace in this moment. I could have been kinder. I could have been all of these things, but you didn't. And that's when reality hits you in the face. I didn't. Next time, let me try to prove myself a little better. And I think that's when I put myself in the shoes of my kids. When it's man, I messed up and I could have did better. And but who's extending me grace at that point? Should I
Right.
extend myself grace? Should my wife extend me grace? Should the kids extend me grace for not being perfect, the best at that moment? Yeah, I think so because of the dad capital that has been built up over time
Oh yeah,
and the core
absolutely.
values that I have as a person, as a dad, as a man, as a husband, as a Christian. Like this is where I'm ranking myself.
Right.
So yeah, it does suck, but I think it's necessary. That's what I'm saying. I think the suck is necessary, basically.
Yeah, it's been a mantra of life for many people, like embracing that suck, different in different environments.
Yeah,
But the thing that we started off with is that guilt that we get as fathers, and I think if you're present, I want to believe that if you're present enough, you're gonna have that feeling because
yeah,
you're internalizing those things, right? I just recently started writing. That's really helped me to name that guilt. But I'll start writing things and I'm like, oh man, I didn't go apologize for this. What example did I give by not doing that? And then it tends to grow if I'm out of the house, right? So now
yeah,
I'm out of the house and you're right. Facebook comes on and they want you to be there. They can't understand why you're not there. And I've done this before and it's starting to bother me, but I've done it where I'm like, hey, do you guys like your toys? Do you like the food you have? Then that's why I have to be out here, right? Which is that's lame because now it feels like I'm blaming them for me having to be out there, right? I'm like, you have to eat
yeah,
and you like toys, so because of you doing that, I gotta be gone.
yeah,
Which is not
yeah. I'm definitely guilty of that. I think most dads are guilty of that because you need some kind of justification, right? You can't.
right,
You're like, I need to put this in perspective to them. So toys, dresses, gifts, food, house. Like
right.
this does not just appear out of nowhere. But yeah, we probably don't frame it the right way for
No,
them.
that's definitely I've caught myself framing it. Like I said, the conversation's over. I'm like, did I just blame my children for me having to work or for me silly? Because as Christians, we're told that we're made to work. You're not gonna sit
Yeah,
be a
yeah,
sloth, right?
yeah.
So odds are, if I didn't have children, I'd still be working. It's just
You would still be working. Correct.
right.
Correct.
But it's just I'll get off the phone and I'll be like, I think I just blamed them for me being over here. Like this is dumb. That's ridiculous. So weird, like how guilt will come in those spaces, and then there's a big result. There's a big consequence to guilt,
Yeah.
right? There's definitely that can be very negative consequence to guilt. But there's also something that I've noticed, and maybe it's just in me, but I find myself giving in to things that normally I wouldn't
Yeah,
because of the
absolutely.
guilt, right?
Absolutely.
Or I'll find myself like not having the money to go do X. Oh, they want
Yeah.
to go on a trip because it's spring break or what have you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, my instinct wants to say no because I'm like, no, we're looking at finances, it's not going to work. And I'm like, I feel bad that whatever, place them all in there. How we're going, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm using the credit card to just give them something back,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which feels dirty sometimes after the afterthought, which is my attempting to rid myself of guilt
Yeah.
this way, as opposed to just facing it. Or sometimes, be honest with you, should I just chew on that guilt because maybe I do deserve that. I find myself chewing on some of the guilt during a workout. I can just be there and
Yeah.
realize like things. But then other times I find that I'll catch myself doing certain things that are probably not prudent to our financial
Yeah.
success, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this for the girls and it's gonna hurt a little bit, but we're doing it. Or like when birthdays come around, dude, I'm like, all right, we're gonna keep it simple. Nope, I'm spending a bunch of money because I don't want to say no, because at a bare minimum, this is their day. I need them to know that I'm happy that they're here, that I want them to be here. But it just, again, in this material world that we live in, I'm like, that's not the lesson I want to give my children.
No.
I love them. Here's all this stuff where
You
but
were
it,
trying to buy affection when we're missing. And it's you cannot buy the affection. We cannot overcompensate. And I definitely see that. And I felt that guilt and that tinge of, okay, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, maybe I should overcompensate for not being here. And it's no, I can't overcompensate for it because I wasn't there. And me giving a bunch of different things is not going to replace my presence. And I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to have that dirty feeling. I don't want to have this exchange for guilt for money and
right.
like money for love and all these things equaling each other. But it is a tough road to go forward in guilt and allowing it to consume you. So this is my question for you. Why are we not talking about that? Like, why are we talking? I know why we're talking about it, but the dad homies that we do have, like when you ask everybody, everybody's fine. Everybody's
We're
fine.
all fine.
We're
We're
all
all
fine.
just
We're all fine. Our days are good. Not much is going on, and you know something is going on. So why don't we talk about it? Why don't we? Why when I was googling dad guilt, you can't find anything on it?
I think you did find something. You just shut up and continue to do what you're doing. Right? You think about that because I'm not gonna go and constantly be complaining about my dad guilt to my wife.
Okay. Yeah.
For several reasons. No, my wife and I have a great relationship where there's times where I need to sit down with her and I just need to offload some things, some thoughts, something. And we do this a lot. But and this may be wrong or right, and some people may not agree with this, but I want to hold the position of the provider and the position of the strong person in the house, almost to a fault. That allows me to then justify being fine. Does that make
Mm,
sense? Like, how's it going? It's going good because this is just what we do. You've known me for a long time. I'm not
yeah.
the sappy, like emotional dude. And
Right.
so, no, I'm not going to go and start to spill my information out to anybody. One, particularly because I'm a very private person,
Yeah.
but two, because call it my upbringing, call it my culture, whatever you want to call it. I believe that for me, I want to be that strong person. Like,
Right.
I can probably count on one hand, maybe half a hand, ever the times that my wife has seen me cry, or
Yeah.
ever for sure that my daughters have seen even a tear. I've never cried in front of my girls,
Yeah.
ever. I think they've seen me. I think my oldest probably seen me shed a tear in a heart to heart with her at some
Yeah.
point, but never to the point of daddy's like ugly crying. Like it happened.
Yeah.
And again, I may get some kickback for that, but that's just me. And
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson had this talk that he did where he mentions it's not male exclusive. He just says, be the strongest person at a funeral, right? And I heard this recently. I've been that person.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just my nature or what have you. I see death differently. I don't necessarily cry at funerals. I think they're sad. I think, seeing other people that I love being sad makes me sad. But I also feel like I want to be the person that can stay level headed so that when that sad person comes over, I can help them maneuver. And that's what I see myself in my household. Like I want to be that person. But here's the thing, it's to a fault because if I'm not taking care of myself in the way that I know that I need to, exercising, sleeping, like doing the things that require me to take care of me, I'm not the strongest person and the mood is different. And the household sometimes goes off of your mood
Yeah. Yeah.
as a father. At least I can tell you that in a household of girls, as I mentioned, my daughter will tell me they notice when my mood changes. My middle child is like, dude, she's like 100 miles an hour, happy and talking all day, right?
Yeah.
And she will tell me that the mood is different. And you can notice it because she won't see a peep, which is weird. And I've gotten to the point where I can notice that. And I literally walk outside because I'm like, I'm ruining the mood of the household by doing that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Their mom can definitely change the mood in the household for all of us as well. Because she's the boss around here. But I'm just saying that we as parents, we run the temperature of the home.
Yeah. We're not a thermometer, we're the thermostat.
Exactly. I catch myself feeling I don't want to be that sappy, cry dad because I don't want that temperature to change in the house. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that's just me personally.
I respect what you say. I'm just thinking back to deeper conversations that we have had. So I know you can go there. That's what I'm saying. I know you can go there, and I'm not saying you're going there all the time with everyone. You do share how you feel, and I think my biggest thing is that I share how I feel when I feel safe to do. And I like to be the dad that can come down to their level. And I do, if my girls are feeling bad, I do want to comfort them. They have seen me cry, but it comes more from a place of I want to be in this mood with you. Yeah, I want to also stand strong at times, but I also want you to know that I can sympathize or empathize with how you're feeling in this moment. In this moment, I don't want you to feel alone in your own sadness or your own distress. That there is someone who also can relate to you in this moment. And that's what I take from it.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I understand your position. I just come from a different part of that position. But yeah, I get it. You don't and I'm the same way. I don't if I can't change something immediately, you're not gonna hear me talk about it. You're not gonna hear me complain about it. It'll be in my head. I'll think about the problem, and then I'm automatically trying to make a solution for it, which isn't always great. But I don't always vocalize the stressors of my day if I can't immediately change it. Because then I feel like that's whining and complaining. But if someone who you trust and who you love, you care about, they ask you how your day is going, there should be a sense of honesty with that. And I think sometimes we're dishonest with ourselves, so we're dishonest with others about how we're feeling. And we're not always fine, you know. And somebody on the street asks me how I'm doing, I guess I could be honest with them, but I'm more inclined to be fully open and vulnerable if somebody gave me a call and like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm away and I really miss my family right now." I'll do that. I'll do that.
Do that. I just don't. I find myself just doing I'm good. What do you need?
I'm good.
Yeah, again, it's to a fault. I think I've been able to internalize enough that there's times where I'll have to just talk to my wife and
Yeah.
Know some of my thoughts, but for the most part, try to show empathy, try to show sympathy at their level as much as I can. Sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll just let them cry. It's just
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
thing. I just they won't see me do that.
Yeah.
But again, but it's interesting that emotionally that guilt has gotten me more than most any other thing in my life. Thinking about having said something to my daughters or having, I don't know, shown or given perception of not caring or annoyance or these things that just start stacking up. That's been a big factor in my life. And then the other one is being gone. I mentioned before, like my oldest, I was gone for about a year of her life.
Yeah.
So I left, I had deployment one time I left when she was, gosh, she was 1.5 ish, missed her second birthday, came back after 2 months after her second birthday. And that was just an actual deployment. The other times I was gone, it was just a week here, a week there, month here, month there, just
Yeah.
constantly out and about. And again, I convinced myself like this is how I pay the bills right now. This is what's got to be done. But man, the guilt to that, especially now, as I mentioned before, having been more present with my middle, definitely my youngest since she was a COVID timeframe baby, right? Like I think back, I'm like, man, I did not give my first one this much time. And man, time is like literally invaluable. Like, it's just
Yeah.
something we no longer get back. It's gone.
It's
And
priceless.
so that guilt definitely drives through and it's been a part of decision making we see in the military. I remember when I was at my deployment, I was looking for jobs because I'm like, I gotta be home, dude. Like I
Yeah.
can't be, it didn't work out at the time. And my dad responsibility of the jobs aren't out there that are going to pay what I get paid right now. Let's just keep on going, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a factor in decision making. Man, that guilt is real, dude.
Yeah.
And now my job now is schedule. I make a schedule. It requires me to schedule being gone,
Yeah.
which now feels like I'm choosing to be gone, even though it's part of the job.
Yeah.
Feels like I'm choosing this week to be gone because that's I was able to move the schedule, but that's still my choice to be doing this. And it drives decisions all over the place for me. And I used to think it was just the job that drives the decisions, but now it feels like the guilt will drive decisions. Oh, do I bunch a bunch of them up so that I can just be gone like 3 weeks and then not be gone for a long time? Do I spread them out? Do I? And it's all based on how much I'm missing. So the girls recital on something. My daughter's band thing, like something. I'm constantly basing off of where I'm picking and choosing what guilt I'm gonna carry for that month.
There it
Right?
is.
Like,
There it is.
right?
That's what I was thinking. We get to pick and choose the guilt that we carry.
Yeah.
I think that is the most difficult thing. It's the most profound thing that we have is the ability to carry different weights. What weight do I want to carry today? Because, and I'll say something else that I'll probably get a lot of flack for. I feel multitasking is a myth for me. There's no way that you're doing a bunch of different things and paying the equal amount of attention to all of them. Not all these things are getting the same amount of attention. Something is falling, right? And so you either choose, okay, right now, I'm going to have to be in work mode and I'm going to have to not give my family and my girls this attention right now. That's just what it is. And I have to choose that. And now I have to choose, hey, work is not a priority right now. I'm spending time with my family and I'm here with my girls. And I'm choosing that now because, yeah, I could be working. I could be getting some professional development. And I could be moving myself further to career goals and paths that could open up other doors. But no, right now is family time. So no, I think that's an amazing point that we choose the guilt that we carry.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely it feels like a choice, right? It feels like it. Unless you're independently wealthy and can just sit at home and somehow make money, it feels like a choice. And it's weird because that choice, in the if you pull back and detach from that situation, you're choosing time over money. time with your family over money,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the bigger scheme of things, like it's necessary. It's a necessary evil. We got it. But that is the choice, right? Do I go and do this because it pays me money, or do I go and do this because it pays me happiness,
Mhm.
right? Which one am I doing? And it's super weird because I've come to realize like money just buys you time, but you have to give your time to get the money.
Mhm.
So it's a double edged sword, right? So it's just a weird thing, man. That guilt will drive a lot of different things that I do in my life. If I don't get up early and work out, I may miss the workout in the day because the guilt alone will not allow me to do a workout after work.
Yeah.
Even though I know, at least for me, for Oscar, I need a workout.
Yeah.
That's my physical, emotional, mental outlet to just give my body something it needs, right? I've been working out my entire life. So in
Yeah.
one way or another,
Yeah.
but that guilt will literally, it feels like a person. That guilt will tell me, you're not working out right now. If you do, I'm gonna hurt you. I just got off of work. Now I'm taking another hour and a half to do this thing that I know is good for me.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm probably a better person and father after a workout, but my lazy ass didn't get up in the morning to knock it out while they were sleeping. Had I done that, then I have a whole different situation. But it's that the guilt will drive a lot of decisions throughout my day.
Yeah. I'm a person whose battery recharges around other people. And so my friendships as are deeply important to me. My friendships are my literal insides, right? They make up me because that's how important they are to me. And I feel guilty when I
Mm.
go and spend time with my friends and my girls are like, "Where are you going, Daddy?" I'm like, "I'm spending time with Uncle So." And they're like, "But you just got here." And I'm like, I
Yep.
feel so terrible because
Yep.
they want to spend time with me as well. But I also know that these friendships are super important to me, right? And cultivating them and establishing them and maintaining them really is what I have been great at. I have been great at maintaining my friendships and I don't want to let them fall. And so that's another point of contention for me where guilt comes in because it's like, yeah, while I go and recharge my battery over here so I can come back and be good for the girls, there's still this guilt about that, about having these personal relationships that see me as Blandon and that every time we're around, it allows me to be better for myself, healing parts of me that I didn't even know
Right.
needed healing when I'm around these people so I can be good for my family. And
Yep.
they're also my family too. Like, and coordinating that as an adult is crazy.
Yep.
Coordinating that time with your core group of friends now is like insane.
It
But
is.
I have to do it. I have to make it a priority. But it's not a priority over my family. I feel like people are gonna hear that and they're gonna like misunderstand that. But it's a priority for me so I can be good for my family.
I think that's a great point. And I'm gonna ask you a question. I venture to know the answer already, but it's easier to schedule. Buddy calls you up, a family member calls you up. Hey, you want to meet for dinner or lunch or whatever? You're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then as it gets closer, you're like, yeah, I don't want to do this. And but it's based on, yeah, it could be based on other things, but a lot of it is that guilt of, oh, now I have to leave the house. Now you have to go through the, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave girls because I'm gonna go do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find myself doing that all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
people want to do this, some buddies want to get together. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. All of a sudden, sometimes for me, even right after I schedule, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't want to leave. Actually, also reminded me of the guilt that comes, at least for me, with my wife as well. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun. We'll talk about this. I had a trip to Spain. It was work related. I
Yeah.
was in Spain. I was in Madrid, and it was an awesome experience to go there, which I wanted to do with my wife. I'm like,
Of
it would
course.
be great to have you here so you can see these things and do these things.
Yeah.
Um, and so by the virtue of my job, I go to these places, and a lot of times I won't call my wife when I'm at somewhere cool, or I'll call her when I'm thinking of her, but I won't It's almost like she'll be like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Ah, it's going okay," but I'm having a freaking blast in Spain. Like, it's going all right, and she knows that because I feel bad about it. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm like you mentioned, like you're cheating on your family time because you're
Yes.
doing this thing that's really cool.
Yes. Yes.
You almost
by
you
yourself.
almost don't, yeah, you almost don't want to enjoy it because it feels wrong.
Yeah.
Um, but I was at the Van Gogh Museum. It was an amazing museum. No, I'm literally a knuckle dragger. Like it
Yeah.
took
Yeah.
me 20, 30 minutes to get through the entire museum. And I was like, I'm done. Like, they all look the same to me, whatever.
They all.
Now, I know the importance of Van Gogh, and we had an entire course on it, but they're paintings to me, and they're beautiful, but they also are blending in together, whatever. But I know my wife likes Van Gogh, and
Yeah.
I was like, man, I gotta call her. He's like,
Right.
to come to this museum because God knows I wouldn't choose to go to art museum. It's just not my brain won't concept choosing to do that. But I would go with her, right? I would go with her, and so I was like, I called her. And I said, "Hey, I'm at this museum. You'd love it." And she's just, "I hate you," like straight up, right? And I don't blame her. But that's the thing is that's the guilt. Is oh yeah, that sucks, dude. Like you're home, dealing with the kids, you're dealing with the house and all the things. And something that we always joke around here is the moment I leave, there's something wrong. Like
Right.
like
Right.
the moment I leave, toilet doesn't work. Something doesn't work in the house. One of the kids is sick. It's just
Right.
consistent.
Right.
Like, all right, I'm leaving this week. What do you think is gonna go wrong that I can get it ahead of?
Right. That I can
But
fix before I leave, so I don't feel
right,
bad. That.
or at least have the repairman on dial.
Yeah.
But that guilt for me has been a lot to carry around. Like I leave, and I'm working. I can hide in my work while I'm doing it. But again, getting back to the hotel room, I'm like, oh man, she's dealing with stuff at home. Like she's dealing with the kids. I got a kid sick. One of them is being difficult, what have you. And you're almost afraid to call
Mm.
because the guilt comes across in the conversation, having a
Just.
hard time. And it's a very true thing. And so again, I find myself trying to find ways to buy that guilt away with her or to do something for her that I probably shouldn't to make says to make them happy, but it's more am I doing it to relieve myself of guilt for doing whatever. Hang out with us on this podcast. We're on all the social media things at Daughter Podcasts on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube. Come hang out with us, spend some time giving us feedback. Let us know if any of this resonates with you, if there's items that maybe we got wrong and we could adjust on because we'd love to find that out. Conversations at daughterpodcast.com. You can send all your information on to that. Questions, comments, concerns, gripes, all the things that you have for us. We appreciate all the feedback that we can get. And for our friends out there listening to us, thank you for your time. Thank you for your ears and your thoughts as you're listening through our rambling. And in these episodes, we want to do better for our girls. Come do the same with us.